What if I told you that every technique you've tried, every vision board you've created, and every manifestation ritual you've performed has been working backwards? What if the reason your dreams feel so close yet impossibly out of reach isn't because you're not good enough at manifesting? It's because you've been trying to attract a reality while maintaining the exact same identity that created your current limitations. Here's the mind-bending truth that's going to flip everything upside down. Your dream reality already exists right now, fully formed and completely accessible. You just haven't tuned into the identity that naturally lives it. Most people spend years chasing their desires like they're hunting for buried treasure, never realizing the map has been inside them all along. They're stuck in this exhausting cycle of wanting, hoping, and waiting for external circumstances to shift, while the quantum field responds only to who they're being in each moment. But what if you discovered that the version of you living your dream life isn't some future possibility? It's a parallel reality you can step into today simply by remembering who you really are beneath all the stories that have kept you small. If you've been feeling like your manifestations are stuck in permanent shipping mode, if you're tired of that soul-crushing gap between where you are and where you know you belong, then this message is going to change everything. Because today, you're going to learn that the distance between your current reality and your dream life isn't years of work. It's one frequency adjustment that can happen the moment you stop playing small and start being the person you came here to be. There's this agonizing feeling of being perpetually stuck at the edge of your dreams, like standing outside a beautiful house you can see through the windows but can't find the key to enter. You know your dream life is right there, practically within reach, yet every time you stretch toward it, it seems to slip away like trying to grasp water with your bare hands. This isn't just disappointment, it's a deep, soul-level frustration that comes from knowing you're meant for something bigger, while feeling trapped in patterns that keep recreating the same limited reality. It's like being a radio that can almost tune into the perfect station, but keeps getting static, instead of the clear, beautiful music you know is broadcasting. The emotional toll of this near-miss phenomenon affects every area of your life, creating a chronic sense of almost there that can drive anyone to the edge of exhaustion. Most people don't realize that this painful gap isn't caused by external circumstances or bad timing. It's actually a frequency mismatch between who they currently are and who they'd need to be to naturally receive their desires. They're trying to attract their dream life while maintaining the same identity that created their current reality, which is like trying to receive a text message on a phone that's tuned to the wrong network. The universe isn't withholding their dreams. It's simply responding to the signal they're consistently broadcasting through their thoughts, emotions, and daily choices. When someone spends years visualizing abundance while feeling unworthy, or imagining love while believing they're hard to love, they create an energetic contradiction that keeps their desires in perpetual shipping mode, always on the way, but never quite arriving. This persistent chase creates what psychologists call hope fatigue, a state where your nervous system becomes exhausted from constantly reaching for something that feels simultaneously possible and impossible. You might notice this showing up as cynicism about manifestation, spiritual bypassing to avoid the deeper work, or swinging between manic optimism and crushing disappointment whenever things don't work out as expected. The beautiful truth is that this pain is actually your soul's way of telling you it's time to stop chasing externally and start shifting internally, because the real key to your dreams isn't out there waiting to be found. But before we can understand how to bridge that gap, we need to explore something that'll completely change how you see reality itself. Here's something that's going to blow your mind wide open. The version of you living your dream life isn't a future possibility you're trying to create. They already exist right now in what quantum physicists call the field of infinite potential. Think of reality like a massive Netflix library where every possible version of your life is already filmed, produced, and ready to stream. You just haven't learned how to navigate to the right channel yet. In quantum mechanics, scientists have discovered that all possibilities exist simultaneously in what's called superposition, which means the abundant you, the loved you, the successful you, and yes, even the struggling you, all coexist in different dimensional frequencies. Your current experience is simply the reality you've been most consistently tuned into through your identity, beliefs, and emotional patterns. But switching channels is absolutely possible when you understand how the cosmic remote control actually works. This concept isn't just spiritual theory, it's backed by cutting-edge physics research from institutions like MIT and Stanford, where scientists have proven that consciousness directly affects physical reality at the quantum level. Dr. John Wheeler's delayed choice experiments showed that the observer's awareness literally determines which reality becomes real out of infinite possibilities. When you're struggling to manifest, you're not failing at creation. You're perfectly creating the reality that matches your current identity frequency. The wealthy version of you exists in a parallel timeline where they made different choices, held different beliefs, and most importantly, identified as someone who naturally receives abundance. Quantum manifestation isn't about forcing the universe to give you what you want. It's about identity shifting to match the frequency of the reality where you already have it. The most profound part of this understanding is realizing that your dream life isn't something you need to build from scratch. It's something you need to remember and step into, like an actor finally getting called to play the role they were born for. Every meditation, every visualization, every moment of inspired action is actually you practicing the art of identity, shifting between different versions of yourself until you can stabilize in the frequency of your desired reality. This is why some people seem to manifest effortlessly, while others struggle for years with the same techniques. The effortless manifestors have learned to align with their higher self first, then let external reality catch up to match their internal transformation. But even with this understanding, there's still one crucial gatekeeper standing between your current reality and your dream timeline. Your self-concept is like an invisible bouncer at the entrance to your dreams, checking every opportunity against your internal ID card and deciding whether you're authorized to receive what's trying to come into your life. This bouncer has been trained by years of experiences, inherited beliefs and unconscious programming to recognize only certain types of experiences as appropriate for someone like you. If your internal ID says, "I'm someone who struggles with money," then no matter how much you consciously want financial freedom, that bouncer will find ways to sabotage opportunities, create drama around wealth, or make you feel guilty about receiving abundance. It's not personal. It's just your subconscious mind doing its job of keeping you consistent with who it believes you are, even when that consistency is keeping you stuck in patterns you desperately want to escape. The tricky thing about self-concept is that it operates completely below conscious awareness, like a computer program running in the background of your mind while you're focused on other applications. You might consciously affirm, "I am worthy of love," while your deeper self-concept whispers, "But people always leave me," or "I have to earn affection by being perfect." These contradictory programs create what's called cognitive dissonance, where your mind literally can't compute the gap between what you want and who you believe yourself to be. This is why someone can do years of therapy, read hundreds of self-help books, and practice every manifestation technique available, yet still find themselves attracting the same relationship patterns, financial struggles, or career limitations. They're trying to change their external reality without updating their internal identity, which is like trying to get different TV shows while keeping the same channel programmed into your remote. The breakthrough happens when you realize that your self-concept isn't a fixed truth about who you are. It's simply a collection of thoughts you've practiced thinking so frequently that they've become unconscious habits. Just like you can learn a new language or develop a new skill, you can consciously practice identity, shifting toward the version of yourself who naturally receives what you desire. This isn't about positive thinking or affirmations. It's about genuinely updating your core operating system so that success, love, and abundance feel natural rather than foreign to your nervous system. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to think their way into a new identity instead of understanding that transformation requires a completely different approach. The secret isn't about trying to get there, it's about learning to be there. Here's the paradigm shift that changes everything. Stop trying to get to your dream life and start being the person who's already living it. Most people approach quantum manifestation like they're planning a cross-country road trip, mapping out the route, packing supplies, and preparing for a long journey toward their goals. But what if I told you that your desired reality isn't somewhere you need to travel to? It's somewhere you need to tune into, like adjusting your radio frequency to pick up a station that's already broadcasting. The version of you living your dreams exists right now in the quantum field, and the fastest way to access that timeline is through identity shifting, literally becoming that person energetically before the physical circumstances catch up to match your new internal reality. Think about how actors prepare for major roles. They don't just memorize lines and hope for the best. Method actors like Daniel Day-Lewis or Meryl Streep literally become their characters, adopting their speech patterns, walking differently, thinking from their perspective, and embodying their energy so completely that the performance feels effortless and authentic. Quantum manifestation works the same way. Instead of trying to convince the universe to give you what you want, you embody the frequency of someone who already has it. This means thinking their thoughts, feeling their emotions, making their choices, and moving through the world with their energy. When you successfully align with your higher self in this way, you're not just pretending to be someone else. You're accessing a real aspect of your multidimensional consciousness that exists in the parallel reality where your dreams have already materialized. The magic happens when you realize that time is actually more flexible than your linear mind believes. In quantum physics, Einstein proved that time is relative and can be stretched, compressed, or even experienced in reverse under the right conditions. When you consistently embody your future self's identity, you create what's called timeline convergence, where your current reality begins merging with your desired reality because you've eliminated the energetic distance between them. This isn't wishful thinking. It's applied quantum mechanics using consciousness as the tool for reality navigation. But embodying a new identity requires more than just intellectual understanding. It requires practical techniques for matching the specific frequency of your dream self, which brings us to one of the most powerful practices you can master. Your nervous system is like a sophisticated tuning instrument that can be calibrated to match any frequency you consciously choose, and learning to tune into your dream self's energy is the most direct path to quantum manifestation. Start by finding a quiet space where you won't be interrupted and close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths, letting each exhale release any tension or limitation from your current identity. Now imagine stepping into an elevator that can travel not just between floors, but between different versions of your life. As you press the button for your dream reality, feel the elevator beginning to rise, and with each floor you pass, sense yourself becoming more aligned with the version of you who naturally lives that life. When the doors open, step out and look around. What do you see, hear, and feel in this reality where all your desires have already manifested? The key to making this practice transformational, rather than just imaginative, is engaging all your senses and emotions as if this experience is actually happening right now. Notice how your dream self breathes. Is it deeper, more relaxed, more confident than your usual breathing pattern? Feel into their posture. How do they carry themselves through the world? What's the dominant emotion in their body? Is it gratitude, excitement, peace, or empowered calm? As you tune into these subtle frequencies, your nervous system begins to record this new energetic signature as a reference point. This isn't just visualization, it's frequency training, where you're literally teaching your body and mind what it feels like to be someone who naturally receives what you desire. The more vividly and consistently you practice this identity-shifting exercise, the more familiar this elevated state becomes to your subconscious mind. To anchor this new frequency in your daily life, practice micro-embodiments throughout your day, brief moments where you consciously align with your higher self in real-world situations. Before walking into your workplace, spend 30 seconds breathing like your successful self and carrying their confident energy. Before checking your bank account, tune into the peaceful abundance frequency of someone who naturally has financial flow. Before social interactions, embody the warm magnetic energy of someone who naturally attracts loving connections. You can also create frequency anchors, specific songs, scents, or physical objects that you associate with your elevated state during practice sessions. Then use these triggers throughout your day to instantly recall that energetic signature. But mastering this tuning process requires letting go of something that might feel scary at first. The familiar identity that's been keeping you comfortable in limitation. The most profound part of identity shifting isn't learning to be someone new. It's having the courage to let the old version of yourself die gracefully, like a snake shedding skin that no longer fits. This death isn't literal, of course, but it can feel emotionally intense because your ego interprets releasing familiar patterns as existential threat. The version of you that's been struggling, waiting, and feeling not enough has been your companion for so long that even though it's been limiting your potential, It feels safe and predictable. It's like staying in a relationship that's no longer serving you, simply because the dysfunction feels more familiar than the unknown territory of healthy love. But here's what your old self doesn't want you to realize. Every moment you spend defending your limitations is a moment you're voting against your expansion, and the universe can't deliver your dreams to someone who's energetically committed to staying small. The art of identity death involves recognizing when you're operating from outdated programming and consciously choosing to respond from your elevated self instead of reacting from your historical patterns. Maybe your old self would panic when receiving an unexpected bill, but your abundant self calmly handles financial challenges from a place of trust and creativity. Perhaps your old self would stay quiet in meetings to avoid judgment, but your confident self naturally shares insights because they know their voice has value. You might notice your old self trying to convince you that change is dangerous, that success is for other people, or that you should wait until you're more ready before stepping into your power. These voices aren't your intuition, they're the death rattles of an identity that knows its time is up. The key to making this transition smooth rather than traumatic is approaching your old self with compassion rather than resistance. Thank that version of yourself for trying to keep you safe. Acknowledge the lessons they taught you, and then gently but firmly explain that you're ready to grow beyond their protective limitations. You might even create a ritual to honor this transition, writing a letter to your old self expressing gratitude for their service, burning papers with your old limiting beliefs written on them, or symbolically burying objects that represent your past identity. Remember, you're not destroying anything real. You're simply choosing to align with your higher self, rather than continuing to identify with patterns that were never truly you in the first place. But releasing the old identity is only half the process. The other half involves consistently embodying your new frequency until it becomes your natural way of being. Living as if isn't about pretending or faking. It's about consistently choosing to embody the energy, thoughts, and actions of your higher self until that frequency becomes so natural that you forget you were ever anyone else. This requires what I call the Identity Embodiment Blueprint, a daily practice of consciously calibrating your frequency to match your desired reality before engaging with the external world. Start each morning by spending 10 minutes connecting with your future self through meditation, feeling into their energy signature, and asking them how they would approach the day ahead. What would they prioritize? How would they handle challenges? What energy would they maintain regardless of external circumstances? This isn't just mental exercise, it's frequency programming that sets your nervous system to operate from an elevated baseline throughout the day. Throughout your daily activities, practice choice point awareness, recognizing moments when you can either react from your old identity or respond from your new one. When your old self would choose the cheaper option out of scarcity fear, your abundant self invests in quality because they operate from overflow. When your old self would scroll social media to avoid discomfort, your empowered self uses that time for creative projects or self-care practices that align with their vision. You can also create identity rituals that reinforce your new frequency. Maybe wearing a specific piece of jewelry that represents your confident self, listening to music that makes you feel unstoppable, or maintaining a gratitude practice focused on experiences you're calling in rather than just what you currently have. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency in choosing your elevated identity more often than your limited one. Advanced practitioners of quantum manifestation also use what's called environmental programming, consciously arranging their physical space to support their new identity rather than their old patterns. This might mean displaying vision boards that represent your desired reality, keeping books by successful people you admire where you'll see them regularly, or simply organizing your living space like someone who naturally receives abundance would maintain their environment. You could start dressing like your successful self, eating like your healthy self, or socializing like your confident self, not as a performance, but as practice for identity shifting into alignment with who you're becoming. Every choice to embody your higher frequency rather than default to your familiar limitations is a vote for the reality you're creating, building momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. But there's one final realization that makes this entire process feel effortless rather than effortful. The most profound truth about identity shifting is that you're not actually becoming someone new. You're remembering who you've always been underneath the layers of conditioning, fear, and limiting beliefs that convinced you to play small. Your dream self isn't a fantasy you're trying to create. They're a real aspect of your consciousness that's been patiently waiting for you to stop rejecting your own magnificence and finally come home to your authentic power. Think about moments in your life when you felt most alive, most yourself, most naturally abundant or loving or confident. Those weren't peak experiences you somehow earned. They were glimpses of your true nature shining through when you temporarily forgot to limit yourself. The version of you that naturally attracts abundance, love, and success isn't someone you need to develop. It's someone you need to uncover by releasing everything that was never really you in the first place. This understanding completely transforms the quantum manifestation process because it shifts you from effort to allowance, from striving to being, from becoming to remembering. When you know that your desired reality isn't separate from you, but is actually an expression of your authentic self, manifestation stops feeling like trying to convince the universe to give you something and starts feeling like coming home to who you really are. The wealthy you isn't someone who learned to make money. They're someone who remembered their natural abundance. The loved you isn't someone who became more lovable. They're someone who remembered their inherent worthiness. The successful you isn't someone who developed new skills. They're someone who remembered their creative power and stopped hiding it from the world. Every practice of identity shifting, every moment of choosing to align with your higher self, every decision to embody your elevated frequency is actually an act of remembrance. You're remembering your true nature one choice at a time until forgetting becomes impossible. The journey isn't about fixing what's broken or adding what's missing. It's about removing everything that was never really you until only your authentic magnificence remains. Your dream reality exists now because you exist now, and you exist now as a multidimensional being with access to infinite possibilities through the power of conscious identity choice. The only question is, which version of yourself will you choose to remember today? So here's my question for you, and I want you to feel this question in every cell of your being. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to become someone worthy of your dreams and started remembering that you already are? What would shift in your reality if you finally had the courage to tune into the identity that naturally lives the life you desire? What if the only thing standing between you and your dream reality is your willingness to let go of who you think you have to be and embrace who you've always been at your core? I want to know, what's one limiting story about yourself that you're finally ready to release today? What aspect of your old identity are you prepared to let die so your true self can finally be born? Drop it in the comments below, because your breakthrough might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to finally give themselves permission to remember their own magnificence. And listen, if something awakened inside you while watching this, if you felt that recognition of your true power stirring beneath years of conditioning, then you absolutely cannot miss the video that's appearing on your screen right now. I'm about to reveal the specific quantum identity shifting techniques that I use to maintain alignment with my highest timeline so consistently that my old limitations literally can't find me anymore. This is the missing piece that separates people who occasionally manifest small things from those who live in permanent alignment with their dream reality. Don't let this moment of remembering slip back into forgetting. Your dream self is depending on the choice you make right now to finally stop hiding and start being who you came here to be. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because your journey to master quantum manifestation, perfect your identity shifting skills, and permanently align with your higher self is just beginning. And I have so much more profound wisdom to share with you about becoming the living embodiment of everything you've ever desired.